Hi, my name is Alisa, and I'm really grateful to be here today to be able to introduce myself a little bit, to talk about who I am, how I found my way to the modern eco village, and what I'm passionate about in life in general, but especially for this community, and what I think is so special about the MEV and why I want to live there and what I see could be the vision for this community. So, some of the values that are important to me, and so that you can also get a little bit of a feeling of, hey, is this something that I vibe with and that um, is a community that I would want to live into. So, I'd like to start with just introducing myself a little bit. Already said, my name is Alisa. I have just turned 30 last week. It was a big milestone for me. I am originally from Germany, but the last years I've been traveling around a lot. My partner and I, we have been nomads for a while now, and we kind of go from place to place, usually places near the ocean, and offering workshops and retreats wherever we go. So we've had the beautiful opportunity to see a lot of the world. And while all of that is really amazing and I received so much from that, I do feel that right now I'm stepping, not just because of my birthday, not just because of the 30s, but in general, I feel that there is a new chapter that I want to start of settling more in, feeling more grounded, and then I stumbled upon the MEV, and I thought that was very aligned with me and very much fate that I ended up here. So, what do I do with my life apart from traveling around? I am a psychologist. I focus on relationships and intimacy coaching. I am also a tantra facilitator, which I usually do with my partner. And yeah, I'm just passionate about intimacy. I'm passionate about how do we create more intimacy in our lives, may that be towards ourselves or with others, with our friends, our romantic partners, with our family, with our kids, our employees, or our bosses, whoever it is. How do we create more intimacy and deeper connections with these people? So that's something that in my work life, but also in life in general, I'm really passionate about. Mm, Another thing that, if I can just say two things that I'm passionate about in life, another thing that I'm really passionate about is I really have found how healing it has been for me to be able to drop more into my own body and yeah, living more a life that is less from the mind and all the chatter from the mind, but tuning more into the wisdom of my body and finding my authenticity. So I do a lot of work around how do we find our authenticity, how do we live our lives according to that authenticity. And when I found the Modern Eco Village, I was like, yeah, I think we can all build something really amazing here where we can live um, truly authentically outside of all of the societal pressures. I mean, it's still going to be a community. There's going to be some pressures. We can't like fully take ourselves out of that, but in a way that we can shape the community how we would like to live and how it would lead to the most authentic version of ourselves living in that place. And that's, to me, that's I think one of the most important things that we can do in life. So that is what I'm passionate about. I'd love to talk a little bit about what my journey has been coming to this point, because when I think about communities that I've been to, not just live in communities, but in general, even if it's online or if it's just for a special amount of time that people come together and they form a tribe or a community. What has been really important for me is not so much the work that the people do who are leading that community, but especially about who are these people behind that. So I can say, hey, I like what that person is doing, I like their work, but what's important for me in order to want to be around them is who they are as a person. So that is a wish that I have whenever I step into a community. Um, so I want to give that to you, and I want to give you an opportunity to get a little bit of an insight. Who is Alisa, and what kind of vision does she have, and does that vibe with my values? Yeah. So the way that I would say my journey that led me to the MEV started was when I was in college. I went through some pretty tough life experiences in college that made me kind of question my whole life suddenly. And I've never thought that something was wrong with my life. I've been pretty much in the hamster wheel, some people like to call it. And I was pretty good at that. I was pretty good at the hamster wheel, so I didn't even realize that maybe I could not be happy, or maybe that something is missing, or that maybe this is not really how I want to live my life. But I kind of needed this really strong collision moment where I realized that this is not the way that I want to live my life, and this is not actually truly me. So I started to seek more self-reflection and wanting to dive deeper into who I am and what I actually want in life. So while I was getting my own degree in psychology, I started seeing a psychologist and started some traditional therapy, which I'm super grateful for that I did. It was really amazing that I did that. What I found was that it was incredibly helpful for me to understand what is going on in my mind. It kind of felt like blinders were taking off of my eyes. I've lived my whole life being in this hamster wheel, and suddenly these blinders were off, and I felt very disoriented. I didn't really know what to do with all of that. So it was so valuable to me to kind of organize what is going on, where all of that is coming from, what are my shadows, what are my difficulties in life, and to look at them, to understand them. What I found is that it wasn't really enough for me though. I I understood all of that from the mind then, but I didn't feel it in my body. And I also felt that there was some healing that happened in the mind, but it was still stuck in my body. So after this more like traditional therapy, I was looking for alternative healing modalities that were more focused on dropping into the body and releasing all of the wounding, the conditioning, the trauma that we had stored in our body. So I found amazing modalities like Tantra or shamanism or Taoism or so many other modalities that I really resonated with, where I felt, oh, okay, so we can understand from the mind, but then we can also let go from the body and yeah, to drop more into the body and to listen to that wisdom. I said that earlier is one of my passions now. So I really resonated with that. And the problem was the more I stepped into that, the more discontent I became in my actual life, because I realized that this is, if I really listen to my body, this is not the kind of life that my body wants to live. This is the kind of life that the mind tells me to live, but it's not truly what lights me up and what gives me true pleasure in life. So when I went on another training that was deeply transformational for me in Italy, I realized that in order for me to grow further, the outside kind of needed to reflect my internal growth and changes. So after I was done with that retreat, where I also met my current partner, Harrison, um, I I needed to set some really strong boundaries, and I quit my job, I quit my apartment, I said goodbye to my family and my friends, not actually physically, but via the phone, because I started to pack up all of my things and then live a life that so many of the other people that were on this path led, which was getting rid of all of the clutter in our lives and start to travel physically, but also on a spiritual journey, traveling. And yeah, it has been a really amazing journey for me. I'm so grateful that I started that, and it really helped me to drop more into, okay, who do I want to be? I felt that if I had stayed or returned back to my old life after some of these really transformational trainings that I've done, if I went back to my old life, I know that for me at that point, it wouldn't have been settled enough in me that that change would have been lasting. So it's, oh, that's amazing. That's a transformational thing that happened inside me. But a few weeks later, I'm back in the old trot, back in the hamster wheel. And so for me, it was really important that I set this like really strong boundary and I just left my old life. It was really difficult, and especially it was difficult for the people that I left behind because it was so sudden and they were quite concerned about me. But for me at that time, it was really important to do that step. And I really do feel that since then, when I was able to just really only focus on who am I, what are the things that hold me back in life, and working on these things, I was able to really solidify who I am authentically. And now that it feels as solidified as possible. I mean, there's always more to grow, but as solidified as possible, I now want to kind of come back to society, if you can say it as that, and yeah, and bring all of these wisdoms and all of these experiences from my travels, my trainings. I still want to hold them deep inside me. And at the same time, I want to feel that I can not just chase after one of these next experiences or wisdoms, but I want to feel that I'm actually able to integrate them in my system and live them from a place that is a little bit more grounded. I hope that that makes sense. To me, it kind of feels like I've been a tree that has been constantly growing, growing, growing and getting bigger, but I haven't really been growing my roots. So for me, finding the modern eco village really feels like this is my opportunity to now not just grow towards the sky, which is amazing, but also lay down some roots and grow in a different direction. So for me, it's really a journey of integration, of being able to not go back to the hamster wheel of maybe normal society. At the same time, also not running from it, as I may have been the last years, in order to find myself, but integrating both of these parts in a community where I am able to live in my authenticity and after the values that are really important to me, because other people also have these values. And at the same time, being able to have this really beautiful feeling of a home base, a place where we can recharge and ground and lift each other up and be there for each other. So that's kind of the vision that I see for the MEV and the journey that has led me there. So why did I choose the modern eco village compared to other places that I've seen? Because on my years of travel, I've seen lots of communities, lots of spaces that have been truly amazing. But why would I choose the modern eco village? For me, that's really because I feel that in this project, all of the different values that I was looking for were able to be integrated. And I have a lot of them, so that was quite the feat. um, one of the things, for example, is that for me it was really important that the eco and sustainable part is part of that community. And at the same time, I really love that we have the opportunity to also integrate all of these luxuries of modern life. So it's difficult to find a place where both of that is combined. I think the part that is most important for me, that feels most integrated in this community, is the people. So I I always have to smile when Belinda and Janko talk about separating the dreamers and the doers, because I so agree with that. And I also feel that people who choose the MEV are both. I feel that somebody who doesn't have like strong dreams and visions and really wants to get something more out of life, they wouldn't look for something like the MEV. And at the same time, in order to really commit to a community like that, we also need to be doers. So for me, it's really the perfect mix of dreamers and doers. And I don't want to live in a world, in a society where there's only doing, only only that part of life. That is kind of the hamster wheel for me. At the same time, I don't want to live in a place where everything is just up in the clouds and we're just in the dreaming, and it kind of becomes flaky and unreliable. And so for me personally, that conjunction is super, super important and something that really drew me to the MEV. And I think that, for example, Belinda and Janko really represent that for me, that they have such strong visions and beautiful, beautiful visions. The sky is really the limit for their visions. At the same time, you can feel that they're doers and they actually pull through. So for me, like I said, for me, it's important to feel the essence of a person in order to want to be part of the project. I feel that in them. And that was something that was really important to me. And I can see that other people who feel that way also will be drawn to this project because of that. Another thing that I really appreciate in the Modern Eco Village is that it's located in Spain. So I have been to so many different places that just beautiful, beautiful places. And at the same time, I often felt a draw to be back in Europe, to be close to my old friends, my family. And Spain, for me personally, is a really amazing place where I can be very connected to the world. We have very big cities close by, but at the same time still live a life that is close to the beach, that feels not like the cold winter in Germany. Basically that. And also something that was super important for me, that it's possible to have close access to a beach um, and have the mountains. So the mountains is something that I grew up with when I was a kid, and I never knew how much I missed them um, since after I've left. So when I left, I realized that I really like the mountains also. I always wanted to go to the beach because that's what I didn't have. Now I had a lot of beaches, and now in the MEV, I think it's amazing that we can combine those two. So these are reasons why I personally felt really drawn to the MEV, and maybe some of these are also true for you. So I'd love to talk a little bit about what is my vision for the MEV. Why do I feel so drawn to be in this community, and what do I want to promote in the community? One of the things that I felt right from the start was that I felt very accepted, and somebody who has a very, very, very fine sensor for that. Um, I really felt that I was able to be 100% myself with the people that I was in contact with. I was first Janko and Belinda, then Cassie and Caitlin, and then a lot of the other people that started to become the team, but also people who were interested. Something that I really noticed was that I really felt that I am okay to be here. I'm okay to be in my authenticity. I'm allowed to, yeah, to just really truly be me. And like I said, I have very fine senses for that, especially in places that often advertise inclusivity. It's a big word right now, big buzzword. I often don't really feel that in my body. I actually do feel that I'm allowed to 100% be me and still be accepted in that community, in that tribe. And why I often feel that is that oftentimes, and it's a very natural thing to happen if we're unconscious of it, is that there is an undercurrent of this is the way we're supposed to be and act in a society in order for us to feel kind of similar, and because of that connected. And it is a way to build connection. That is very true. It is not the way that I believe that true connection can happen, because what happens is that we all feel really connected in a place like that because we have similar views. But if we have in some topics a different view, it's not really that accepted to bring that in. And all of these things are often like very, very subtle things. These are not really spoken out, but something that is often felt in some spaces, in some communities. So something that I truly felt here from the beginning was that it was not that, oh, this is the code of conduct here, or we kind of judge people who are like this, or we kind of shame people who are more like that. But it's like, hey, you as a person, if you are living your authenticity, you're accepted here. And I talked about authenticity before. It's really, really important to me. It's one of my passions in life. And so I'd love to talk a little bit about how important it is for me to create a community where there is no shame, that we build a community and a tribe that is shame-free and is based on everybody's allowed to be their full authentic selves in this community. Why I love talking about shame is because I think it's the biggest hindrance in order for us to really feel that we're allowed to be ourselves. And in our society, shame is used so much. It's often, again, very subtle, but it's used a lot. It's especially used in education and raising our next generation, because it is really, really effective. If we shame somebody and we make them ultimately really feel like they're not okay and they're not accepted here, it's a biological evolutionary need for them to shift who they are, how they behave in order to fit in again. So it's a very effective tool. That's why it's used so much. But a lot of experts and I also believe that shame is not really, doesn't have any use anymore. All of our other emotions, they have a really big use. But shame isn't really important for our modern society anymore. And I'd love to explain that a little bit, because a lot of people, especially parents, are like, oh, but sometimes we need that a little bit because it's the only thing that helps with raising kids. What I mean by that is there's a difference between guilt and shame. Guilt is the thing that I did is not really who I want to be and how I want to act. And I feel guilt around that. So if I feel that, I can also change in the future. So the thing I did was not good. And shame is I am not good because I do this and that. I am a bad person because I do this and that. So an example that, for example, my partner loves this example, and I'm going to steal it right now, is around cheating, for example. So if there's a couple and one person, they're in a monogamous relationship, and one person cheats on the other, then this person could either feel guilt or shame around this. Guilt would mean, oh no, I totally fucked up. I did something that was not cool, and I hurt my partner, and it's not the way that I want to live, and I do want to respect our boundaries. So the thing that I did was not cool. I'm going to go to my partner, I'm going to repent, and I'm going to work on myself, and I'm going to work on the relationship so that that doesn't have to happen anymore. So when we feel guilt, it means that we have a chance to grow and become better. So it's actually something that can really help us. If we do go into shame and we're saying not what you did was bad, but you are bad, as in not you cheated on your partner, but you are a cheater, which is very, very different. What happens is that when we feel that shame and we think, I am a cheater, I am a bad person, then how are we supposed to change if I'm just inherently wrong and bad and a cheater? Then there's not really a lot of room for us to improve. So what often happens is that if people feel guilt, they work on themselves and they want to become better. And if people feel shame or they're being shamed from the outside, they get stuck, they freeze, they don't know what to do. So I am such a firm believer that it's so important for us that we foster a community where we're not shaming other people, where people can be themselves, and when they fuck up, then they feel guilt, and then they will work on themselves in order to become better, because we all make mistakes, but we are not our mistakes. So I really love working with shame and judgment, and I love working with people around, okay, but we all feel judgments around other people. It's completely natural for us to judge other people. So how are we able to make sure that we're not living in a society where we shame other people if there's so much judgment inside of us? And one thing is to actually look at the judgment and why we judge. So if you want to, I'd love to do a little thought experiment with you if you're open for it. Something that I really like doing is looking at why do I judge and what does it tell me about myself? And that often helps letting go of it also. So something that that I notice is if we really are honest with ourselves, there's many things in life that we judge. Maybe some things we judge more and some things we judge less. It could be somebody's political views. It could be the way that this person is listening to their music so loudly so nobody else in the room can think properly. Maybe it's I don't know, the way this person is dressed, or this way this person is talking, or whatever it is. We all have judgments through our days about other people or things. So I invite you to think about, what are my judgments? What do I usually judge people about? And I can share a little bit about myself. Maybe that makes it easier. I usually judge people if they're like super big. And I don't mean like physically big, but their energy is really big. So I mentioned that earlier. People who take up all of the attention, all of the space, all of the, who are really loud. And the reason why I judge that actually is because it's one of my own shadows. One of my shadows is that in my childhood, it was not really, I was not really receiving the love and attention of my parents if I was really big and taking up all of their attention. But it was being the person who's super helpful and making sure that other people are fine. So one of my shadows growing up was that I was more concerned about, can I make sure that the other person feels good? So somebody who doesn't care as much about that, who are really loud, who take up the attention and the time and the space of other people, I feel judgment because actually there's a part of me that kind of yearns to do that myself. And once I noticed that, it was not a nice feeling to notice that. I can be honest about that. But once I noticed that, it was so much easier for me to see that in other people. And I'm gonna be honest, I still sometimes feel judgment around that. But I can be so much softer towards myself, but also towards the other person, of being like, oh, okay, this really is triggering to me because I didn't get this and that when I was younger, and this is what I actually crave for. So in order to feel better, I judge this person and kind of make them small in my mind. Some people also do it like in actions. They get passive aggressive towards that person and so on. But just in the mind, it kind of suffices. I kind of judge them because they live out a part that I had to suppress for myself. So if you want to, think about something that you regularly judge people around. Maybe something that you judged me around when you were listening to this video, and think about, what did she do that I really didn't like, that I felt like a little bit like, I didn't like that she said that, or the way she said that, or the way she looks, or how she's dressed, or whatever it is. Think about, totally fine for you to judge me. I love being the example here for you. Think about, what would you judge me about, and then think about, what is that part of you that had to be suppressed so that it now needs to come out in order to make yourself feel better. So that is a little thought experiment that I love doing in order to foster a sense of, it's totally normal for us to judge, and it's totally normal for us to want to shame. And at the same time, when we really work on ourselves and we really put attention to how important it is for all of us to be able to be ourselves without shame and without judgment, these are the most amazing places to live in, because it doesn't take any effort. We're supporting each other, we're helping each other grow, and that's the kind of community that I personally want to live in. So that is one way that we can work with shame. Another thing that is really, really, really effective in working with shame, which I would also love to put into the modern eco village, is to work with vulnerability. So the more vulnerable we are, the more safe we feel to be vulnerable in a space, the less likely it is for us to want to shame each other, to want to judge each other, because we can see the true vulnerable self of the other person. We can see them without all of their walls, without all of their strategies that they acquired over their lives. But we just see the person, the raw authenticity of that person. And we can't really judge that raw authenticity of a person because it's always beautiful. So what I love to do is, I love spaces like, for example, vulnerability circles. That's something that I could really envision doing. I would love to offer circles like maybe weekly or every other week, where we just come together and we're really honest and vulnerable with each other. Not just chatting about things, but like really sharing what is going on in our lives, really sharing how we are, really sharing our pains, and being there for one another in that. And when we do things like that in our community regularly, it helps us grow closer. First of all, it's such a beautiful way to see, the more vulnerable we are, how deep our connections can become. But especially, we feel that all of us is accepted in that community, and we can just be ourselves, and we can live in our authenticity. So things like vulnerability circles is something that is really, really important to me, and that I would love to offer for the MEV also. I'd also love it if a lot more other people would want to share things like that, but I'd love to be maybe one of the first people to do that, because I really believe that that's the way that we can grow closer in a way that allows for true connection.